Good morning, everybody. It's a beautiful day here in Arizona. Nice and sunny skies, no clouds. We've had rain over the weekend. It was a very wet and cold Easter Sunday, but we are back to our sunny 70-degree weather. I think it's actually going to get up in the 80s today. But today we have a special guest. Maricopa County Sheriff candidate Jerry Sheridan will be joining us here in a few minutes. I want to have a great conversation with him and let people know who may be watching from right here in Maricopa County exactly what he stands for and what he plans to do different as sheriff of Maricopa County than what's been done in the past many years with Paul Penzone. And then he resigned, and now we have Sheriff Russ Skinner. And he was a registered Republican. And because Penzone was a Democrat, and when he announced that he was going to resign, they have to appoint somebody in that position who is a Democrat also. So Russ Skinner changed his political party and registered as a Democrat, I think the day of or shortly after Penzone announced his retirement, which enabled them to put him in the position. And so last I read, and I'll be finding out from Jerry when he joins us, Russ Skinner was going to be going ahead and running for sheriff again as a Democrat. So I don't know if he got his signatures in because he made that announcement in February, and that was a pretty quick time frame for him to get the signatures necessary to get on the ballot as a candidate for sheriff in Maricopa County. So let me read some other things here to kind of give you an idea. He was appointed by the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors in a 4-1 vote on February 8th to finish Penzone's term in leading the embattled agency, which has been under court-ordered monitoring for racial profiling since 2013. This all had to do with the SB 1070 that came down, the law that was passed, and it had gone to the Supreme Court, and there was a lot of back and forth with the courts and negotiations and whatnot. And in 2014, the then Governor Jan Brewer and Attorney General Tom Horne came to an agreement with the federal courts that if you leave show me your papers standing in the SB 1070 bill here in Arizona, we will not arrest people for transporting illegals throughout the state. So that was a court order that was signed in 2014, and show me your papers still stands. Now, a lot of things happened back then, and they were calling Arizona a racial state. We lost a lot of convention business and that sort of thing, but it affected us financially. But there was some wiseness in Russell Pierce's looking into the future of what was going to happen, because when you had back then, such a free and open border happening back in 2010 when this was all brought forward. And President Obama was speaking about it. President Clinton was speaking about it, that we've got to stop the flow of these people, and illegal immigration is not acceptable in the United States. Both of those presidents were talking about it. Clinton even talked about it in his State of the Union address. And so there was looking into the future of what will this become if it's not, the brakes aren't put on and some safeguards put into place. What is this going to become, these open borders that we've got? Because, they've been open borders for a long time. I mean, the fact that there was border wall even put up was because of President Trump. So wide open borders, 4 strands of barbed wire. It's still that way in the state of Arizona for over 300 miles. There's there's a couple, I don't know, maybe about 50, 60 miles, maybe, if that, of the actual border fence that they had, President Trump had put up. Most of it is not concertina wire. It's the Normandy fencing, which is the kind of fencing that is just like this, the metal things that you can climb over very quickly. And the rest of it is just barbed wire. Some of it sticks in the ground and the barbed wire put around it the way that ranchers would do back in the day to keep their cattle in. That is all that is protecting the border in southern Arizona. So anyway, this SB 1070 had a lot of negative ramifications because of the way that it was presented to the public and because of the way that the Democrats put it out there, that it was racial profiling. And it's not. It's trying to nip things in the bud as people are entering the country through southern Arizona, and nip it in the bud and stop it before they go any further into the country. Now, for many, many years, there was guest workers, seasonal worker visas, those types of things. And those people were coming over and doing exactly what they said they were going to do and then going back home to their families. But this SB 1070 was addressing the bad people that were coming over and people that just didn't belong. They weren't here. A lot of them were gang members, causing some problems here in Arizona. And so it was before its time. But you know what? If things had been left in place, maybe this could have been circumvented here in Arizona, and how bad things had gotten. Now, there are some legislators in downtown Phoenix trying to bring some of these portions of SB 1070 that was struck out by the Supreme Court, trying to bring some of it forward. And one of them being transporting illegals in the state of Arizona. And now again, it's being talked about that, it's SB 1070 2.0. But what these Democratic legislators here in Arizona fail to recognize and verbally admit, this isn't racial profiling. It's not against Mexican people. It's against people who are strolling over our border illegally. And that is what SB 1070 was trying to stop, questioning these people. Where are you from? Why are you here? That type of thing. Show me your papers. And their law enforcement is still allowed to do it. However, a lot of the city councils and the mayors and the police chiefs have stopped their officers from doing that sort of thing because they don't want the lawsuits coming against them for racial profiling, which is what all of these, pro illegal immigration organizations do. They bring these lawsuits forward and they tie up the law enforcement the same way that Biden is tying up Border Patrol's hands and ICE's hands. These lawsuits from the ACLU, the lawyers for migrants, all these organizations that bring these lawsuits forward to tie things up and put things on pause and allow the illegal immigration to continue. So they are not doing us any service down there, the legislators in Phoenix, by making out that we are a racist state, that our legislators are racist, that the people here in Arizona are racist. That's the farthest thing from the truth. The people in Arizona have lived harmoniously with the Mexican immigrants who have come up for years, for decades, for centuries. And that is the furthest thing from the truth here in Arizona. We are not racist. My son worked down in an area in Mesa that he was put on to clean up the area from the drug dealers and the homeless people and the gang members who are down there causing problems in this neighborhood. He was assigned to that area to clean it up. The majority of people who lived in that area were illegal immigrants, but they've been here for decades. And these people want to be Americans. They want to stay here. They've proven themselves. And I am trying to get a hold of Jerry right now. Jerry Sheridan. They've proven themselves. They've become members of society. A lot of them own small businesses. Their children have gone into the military. They are not a burden on our welfare system. They pay taxes. These people want to be Americans, and those are the people that we should be helping, folks, not the people who are walking over the border tomorrow. Those are not the people. Let me see. I'm going to send him another link. Let me see. Hold on, people, or hold on, folks, because I need to send him another link. See if this gets him on the show properly. Because he's not showing up. All right, hold on a second. Let me, I didn't realize that this phone call that came in was his wife. Hi. I don't. Yeah, he should be able to see me. Did you click on the link the other link that I sent you? There he is. He's coming on now. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Bye. All right, we got Jerry getting his camera set up, and I'll bring him on here. Your ears must have been burning. I was talking about you, Jerry.
We were talking about you too. I said, "Where is she? I've been sitting here for 20 minutes."
Oh my goodness. How are you doing today?
Great. Good day. You?
I'm doing great. You know, the signature phase has passed us, and now it's on the campaign trail, right? Talking to the good people here in Arizona.
Yep.
Getting them to vote the right way.
Raising money too, and that's the part that I hate.
Yes.
Almost as much as the signatures.
Right. Although, you know, this year I had a very good feel for things when I was out door knocking and getting signatures. I had great conversations with people, and they seem to be more aware of what is happening in this country and in this state than they were 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And they're tuning in is the good thing. So,
well, yep. That I consider that the Biden factor. That you know when somebody has a drug problem, alcohol problem, they don't seek help until they're at the rock bottom, and that's what I think is happening with people are finally waking up again. I mean, this happens every time we have a Democrat president. People wake up, and then they forget 4 years from now. You know, that's the only problem.
Although we have been unable to forget for 4 years that Biden is in office because he's doing such a crappy job. You know, I mean, he is really destroying our country. And people who normally don't pay attention to politics are actually feeling it. They are feeling it, you know, in the prices that they pay at the gas pumps and the prices that they pay at the grocery stores. The fact that their communities may be being overrun with illegal criminals and the crime rates are going up. And, you know, I find it so interesting. And you've been in law enforcement, Jerry. You worked at the sheriff's office. You know, so many times, and I've talked about this for years. And I mean, this probably goes back 7 or 8 years, where they were booking some of these illegals, and they were brown or black skinned illegals that had committed crimes. And I'm looking at their booking, and it shows their race as white. And, you know, I've talked many, many times about how the crime statistics in this country are skewed to where it fits the narrative that the Cato Institute or the ACLU puts out that, Americans commit more crimes than illegals. The other thing that is frightening right now is the Biden administration and his press secretary keeps talking at these press conferences that she has that the crime rates have gone down in America. Well, yeah, they've gone down because none of the criminals are being prosecuted, right?
Well, that's true, but also at the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, they haven't added any data, any crime data that they're required to by the federal government and the state since 2022. So if you go online right now to the Arizona DPS website where they have crime statistics, and you look up under Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, there's been no crime data entered since 2022. So I guess the crime's really down since we don't have any here in Maricopa County the last 2.5 years. Can you imagine?
So isn't the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office still being monitored since
Yes.
what was it, 2013, because of the SB 1070, that whole big deal, right?
Yes.
Sheriff Joe Arpaio, all that stuff.
Right. That
So
lawsuit's been going.
Why wouldn't they be saying, why aren't you putting these statistics out for your constituents?
That's a good question. Maybe because it's not part of the court order,
Oh, yeah.
But that case has been going on since the traffic stop was made in 2006. The lawsuit was started in 2007. So this has been going on. This is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The way that they micromanage law enforcement, and there's going to be bad apples everywhere you go. But I was talking before you came on about, they've made Arizona out to be, this racist state ever since the SB 1070. But I think there was some foresight in Russell Pierce's view of what was going on when you see open borders, and in 2010, he saw how bad it was then. And when you can foresee something like this happening, it was kind of like, this is probably something we needed to implement, right?
This was something that, like you said, he had the vision of what was really happening. And Joe Arpaio, and he made some mistakes. Okay, I will tell you that he made some mistakes in the process, but he also had that vision also that this is a major problem. Right. So when the sheriff's office joined the federal government, the 287G program, and that is where the ICE invited us to send 100 people to be cross-certified as ICE agents. So they had actual ICE credentials, so they could enforce federal immigration law. Tom Homan started that program.
It was great.
And we took full advantage of it. And a good example is when we started, over 30% of the people that we had in custody, and we had well over 10,000 inmates at those days, over 30% of them were illegals. By the time we got done enforcing the federal immigration law with ICE authority, by the way, I always have to add that because people forget. Right. And what the sheriff's office effort did, that number went down to like 12%. And I don't know where it is now currently because I'm not there. I don't have access to the data, but it's probably back up there again. That would be my guess.
I remember being up in our Sheriff Joe Arpaio's office after my son had been killed, and we were having conversations about illegal immigration. And he was saying at that time, which Brandon was killed in 2014, so it had to have been probably 2015 or 16 that I was up there in his office. Mm-hmm. He was telling me that he would sit in his office and watch the ICE vans basically go up the street and open the doors and let these illegals back out onto the streets. Right. So was those actually like Maricopa County Sheriff employees who were enforcing the 287G program, or were those actual federal ICE agents?
Well, what we would do, it would be our deputies on the street and the detention officers in the jail system who would identify the illegal aliens, and they would put a hold on them. That was the benefit of the program in the jail system, because ICE's focus was always the criminal illegal aliens, right? That was the main focus. And I talked with the ICE SAC here in Arizona and all the other people. We became good friends, and they would tell me how difficult it is working for Washington, depending on who the president is, whether they can detain them or deport them or what. But when we first started with the program, one of the big things they told me said, Jerry, we don't have enough personnel to deport everybody. So that's why we're focusing only on the criminals. And that's where you come in, okay? Because in the jail, these people were already arrested. And the old way we used to do business, we used to ask somebody, where were you born? And if they said anywhere outside the United States, we'd send ICE a teletype. Okay, remember those machines, you know, with the green and white paper? We'd send them a teletype, and they would respond, you know, okay, we'll investigate more, put a hold on them. But it was so much more efficient with 287G because they brought in their computers and hooked up to their federal system, because our employees were also federal ICE agents, that they were able to access that data and put a hold on them themselves. It was so much more efficient. And so we would detain them. ICE would come pick them up a couple of times a week, depending on how many we had. And what they did with them after that, I don't know. I would imagine back in those days, people did get deported. But I would imagine as time went on that they were just releasing them from their Phoenix office. But they took them out of our hands. We did everything possible that we could as a sheriff's office,
right,
to do this. And then once it went over to ICE headquarters in downtown Phoenix, you know, I don't know.
So this was back in what?
This was back because I was running the jails when all this started, when all this was going on. So this was probably 2003, maybe 2004.
So what you're saying is in 2003, it was already becoming a problem to where it was overwhelming the federal ICE agents, right?
Right.
So, right. You know, this is where I try and educate people and talk to them about, this is where Russell Pierce had the foresight, because, you know, he was former law enforcement, wasn't he?
Right. Russell Pierce and Jerry Sheridan, we were deputy sheriffs together out in East Mesa a long time ago, back in 1979.
Right.
And yes, Russell had a long history, worked his way up through the ranks, and he became Sheriff Joe's first chief deputy.
So, you know, he knew, he was in tune with the law enforcement community, and he knew what a problem this was. But, you know, we've got current legislators, Wendy Rogers, who is trying to bring forth a bill, because in, you know, 2014, when they were finalizing that whole fight with the Supreme Court, Governor Jan Brewer said, let's leave show me the papers in, and we promise that we won't arrest anybody transporting illegals in the state of Arizona. You know, that was a federal court order. So we've got current legislators who were trying to bring that issue back up. And then you've got legislators that are saying, this is trying to bring show me your papers back in the forefront. And I'm thinking, you guys are so uninformed as Arizona legislators, because show me the papers was never taken out of SB 1070.
Right.
You know, it has always stood as law in the state of Arizona. And so why would any elected official, Jerry, be against arresting somebody who's transporting illegals in the state of Arizona?
Well, if they want them to become future voters, That's
Right.
where you boil all this down. Okay. I think it's a nefarious move on the part of the Democrat Party to gain power that they may never have to give up. If they get all these millions of illegal aliens to be able to vote, and they're starting to do that, like in New York and everything. If you see what's going on across the country, so it's not a far-fetched right-wing conspiracy thing. No, I think it's the fact that we have our eyes open to this. And let me also tell you one thing about Russell Pierce. I don't know if you knew this or not, but he was shot by an illegal alien.
Mm-hmm.
He lost one of his fingers, right?
Yep.
And his son was on the SWAT team and was shot by an illegal alien.
Yep.
Okay,
His
he
family was
survived,
affected.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that may have been the impetus to wake him up to what's really going on. But we've seen the
Well,
drugs that coming in, the illegals bringing the drugs in. They're killing our kids. I mean, this whole thing is ridiculous because the country needs to be a country, and the only way that happens is if you have a border.
right.
The days of the father leaving his poor, destitute family in Mexico or South America and coming here and working hard and sending his check back to the family every Friday so they could live are long gone. I'm sure there's a few sprinkled in there with the millions invading the border now, but if you look at it, most of them are military age people from countries that hate our guts and
Right.
want to destroy us.
And countries from across the ocean, from across the Atlantic,
Oh yeah, this isn't a Hispanic thing anymore.
No,
No, and it hasn't been for a long time.
no, yeah. Yeah. And these independent journalists talk to them down at the border, and 85% of them say they're going to New York. And that's because of, look at what they're doing in New York, handing out, $14,000 a year is what they're going to be getting in payments from them. Debit cards, free places to stay, beautiful hotels that have room service, and they just get up in the morning and brush their teeth and comb their hair and go out and stroll around New York all day, go back and get lunch provided for them, go back in the evening, their beds are remade, and they have a beautiful hotel to stay in free of charge. While you and I, work our fannies off to pay for all of this for these people. So
Yeah.
we have a right to be upset and mad. And the elected officials who continue to try and say that we're racially motivated by doing this sort of thing needs to pull their head out of wherever they've got to put, because this is about bankrupting the United States and making us third-class citizens, right?
Well, it's to destroy our republic,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I see Biden uses the word democracy. We live in a republic, and they don't even understand that, I don't think, sometimes.
Right.
But their whole thing is power, right? It's power, and greed and the money they get from having the power. And I think they see this huge voting block to their advantage.
Right.
So
That's all it is. So let's get into a little bit. So the new sheriff is Sheriff Russ Skinner here in Maricopa County. Penzone, who was a Democrat, stepped down in February, and Russ Skinner was a registered Republican. And the
right.
day that Penzone announced his retirement, Russ Skinner ran and re-registered as a Democrat. He claimed he was going to be running. Did he get enough signatures in?
He did.
So he's
He
going to be
did.
on the Democratic ticket.
Well, unless somebody, and not me, unless somebody wants to challenge his signatures, he only got about 500 over the minimum. And as you know, 20 to 30% of those signatures are invalid.
Right.
And so that's way more. I think he got maybe 12% over the minimum. So, if I was his opponent on the Democrat ticket, I would probably have somebody, hire a lawyer. It's a big process. It's not easy. Got to hire a lawyer, file a civil lawsuit, but
Right.
challenge those signatures because I don't think they're going to be valid. And just a week and a half ago, I had heard that Russ only had 1,200 signatures.
And how many
So,
was needed for the Maricopa County Sheriff?
well, the Republicans needed 4,225, and
Wow.
I turned in 9,885, something like that. And
Bravo.
thank you. And the Democrat needed 3,900 and change.
What?
Yeah, because they go by the amount of registered
Registered
uh,
voters.
Republicans or Democrats and independents or even double, triple that. They need like 12,000 signatures. It's crazy. I don't know how they calculate that, but yeah. So he only needed about 3,900 plus. But
Kind of jumped in the race late too, in February, right?
he did. He
Yeah.
did. Yeah.
So what do you think needs to change in the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, Jerry? I mean, you were there for a very long time, hands on, ears
Yeah.
open, eyes, wide open.
Yeah.
What do you think? How will you go in there and make it better than what it is today?
Absolutely. Yeah. There's a one word answer, and that's leadership. A complete leadership needs to change there because they haven't had any
Right.
for the last 7 years.
Yeah,
It's been
Penzone was
non-existent.
terrible.
Penzone was a sergeant
Yeah.
when he took over. He was in over his head before he got there. And I had 2 months to help him in the transition. Arpaio lost the election in November. Penzone was going to take over January 1st. So I had an opportunity to talk to him, and his chief deputy was the guy that was going to take over my job, and a couple of other people in his transition team. And I tried to spend as much time as they would let me with them because when they took over, I wanted them to succeed. I know that sounds crazy, but I spent 40 years there. I grew up there. I was 18 when I joined the sheriff's office. And
Wow.
I was, uh, 58 later years old when I left. I wanted them to succeed. I didn't want them to come in and destroy the place that I grew up.
Right.
And so I gave them my absolute best advice on what to do on many issues, and they didn't take any of it. They did the exact opposite in a lot of things. And I remember Paul telling me one day, he says, well, Jerry, I'm going to get along with everybody, the ACLU and the DOJ. And I'm like, Paul, stop. They are adversaries in a civil lawsuit against you.
Yeah.
You can't get along. Yeah, you try and reach common ground, but what he wound up doing for the last 7 years was allow them to have their way with him. And one of the things I told him, I said, that if the ACLU and the DOJ, they hate law enforcement. They want to take over. They don't want us to do our job. I remember sitting there one day, probably one of the first times when I met with the DOJ lawyers. They had 5, 6 of them come in from Washington. They they were more concerned with the color of the SWAT team's outfit because
Jeez.
it was too aggressive. And I'm thinking,
A
wait a
color's
second.
too aggressive.
Yeah. Because I think they were black at the time. I don't know what color they are now. I think they're green, OD green. They're too militaristic. Well, they have to wear helmets and shields because they're going to get in a gun battle, a
Right.
lot of times with people. You want it's that left wing pacifist, don't want law enforcement to do anything. And we see this, what happens when this takes over in the big cities and in
Yeah.
Seattle and Portland and San Francisco and LA and New York, Chicago, Detroit. I can stop here because everywhere this philosophy takes over, it the crime rates just go absolutely crazy. You know, I was born and raised in New York City. My dad and my uncles were New York City cops. So I've been around this business my entire life.
Yeah.
And so when I see what's happening in New York City, it was a great place when Rudy Giuliani got there and Bernie Kerik and those guys cleaned that place up. It was a great place to go back and visit. I've been in Arizona for 47 years, but
Yeah.
it was a great place. I wouldn't go back there now. And you
Mm.
know what? I have the ability to carry a gun back there. I wouldn't even do that. I told my wife the other day, I said, if we ever went back, I said, I would leave my gun in the safe at home because I would not even want to think about having to defend myself or somebody else because I'll be in prosecuted for homicide just like that Marine is
Exactly.
for stopping that guy on the subway.
Yeah.
It's absolutely ridiculous. So the other part of the equation is we need a strong sheriff. And of course, I know one myself. And we need a strong county attorney here because they have probably even more impact on crime than law enforcement does because they're the ones that prosecute the cases.
Right.
And again, we've seen that in all the cities I just mentioned, and what weak prosecutors bring to the table is more chaos and crime and murder and
Well, and you look
misery.
at Sheriff Daniels down in Cochise County and the Attorney General that the county Attorney General that they had, they worked in coordination. And when Trump was in office, they had a pretty good gig going on to where they were even putting these juvenile drug mules in jail for a year, prison for a year, and Cochise County was a great place, and then you fast forward to, Joe Biden is put into office and immediately signs all of those executive orders that he did.
Yeah,
And, Cochise County is chaos again, even though they've got, a county attorney. When you've got a federal government who's working against you, and in a lot of places, you've got bad sheriffs because, I've met with all of these sheriffs from across the United States, Jerry, the good ones who are all about the 287G program, when Trump was in office and about upholding the law. And the sheriffs need to realize that it's we, the people, who voted them into office. They weren't just hired by the sheriff's department.
that's right.
We the people vote you in, and that's where your oath remains, protecting we the people.
Right.
And so to make this a political situation and for Penzone to be kissing up to the ACLU, the very people who are against American values and American safety and America's law enforcement, is just so disgusting. And I've been so sad, when that all happened and Penzone got in before, but and supporting you because I know your heart is in the right place. I know that your experience that you bring to the sheriff's office will be just outshine anybody else who's running. So, it's important that
Thank
we
you.
have these kind of conversations and people hear
Mhm.
your
Right,
background.
right,
Yeah.
right. So, yeah, just spending 40 years there, yeah, 33 of those years I was in a leadership position, whether I had stripes on my sleeve or bars or stars on my collar. 33 years in a leadership position, and law enforcement, not just at MCSO, but across the country, is is dying to have leaders lead them once again.
Yeah.
And there's no shortage of young kids that want to get into law enforcement or the military. And so here's the analogy I'll use. The military is not able to meet their quotas now. Why? Because they have a weak leader.
Mm-hmm.
The law enforcement is in the same dire straits. It's not just about money. Okay, money has some part to play in it, but it's about leadership. If you're a young person and you want to get involved in law enforcement, you know how dangerous the job is and all that thing, that's okay because you accept those issues. But you don't want to work for somebody that's going to throw you to the wolves if something happens or something goes wrong. You want somebody that's going to stand with you during those difficult times that you're going to have. And I
Yeah.
use a great example. You know, right now, the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office probably, and this number fluctuates a little bit, probably about 1,600 people short of their, excuse me, um, I'm doing the math back, about 1,400 short of their TO, their table of organization, authorized people that they can have. And deputies, when Penzone took over, deputies started to quit right away. That's how I got involved in running for sheriff. We could talk about that if you want to waste some time on that. But you know where they went? They went to Pinell County because Pinell County has a sheriff there that supports his deputies. That's Mark Lamb.
Right.
Mark supports his deputies, and so the deputies down there make a lot less than they do here in Maricopa County, but yet they still left and went to go work for some place that has a good leader. And so leadership is a key to this, to
Especially
getting
in
the
law,
job done.
especially in law enforcement, because you know so many things can happen in a moment, a snap moment, you know, on a call or whatnot. And if you
Mhm.
don't have the leadership backing you up,
Right.
you know, and it's funny because when Brandon first started the Mesa PD, Jerry, George Gascon was the police chief, and from the moment I met him, I had a icky feeling in my gut about this man. And,
Yeah.
you know, Brandon, you know, he got officer of the quarter, officer, you know, different times and had
Mhm.
pictures with him and I'd go to the ceremonies. But every time I saw that man, I just got the icks. There was just something about him that didn't set right. And, you know, when I look at where he is now, I honestly think that if he had been left in Mesa for any length of time, he would have made Mesa a sanctuary city. I honestly believe that.
Well, believe me, we did not get along very well with George.
No. What a terrible,
Oh,
terrible,
oh
uh,
my God.
yeah, because
You
he
know,
is the,
yeah.
um, he's a county attorney over
In
there.
LA.
Yeah, in LA.
Yeah.
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 So he's the
Yeah.
person who makes the decisions whether they're going to, you know, go forward and charge these people with things. And look at the mayhem that California's in.
Well, LA, you know, they're ground zero for all this craziness and not charging criminals and you know and all those things. It's really sad. You know, California. When I was growing up as a kid in New York City, I mean, the California was like a fantasy world,
Yeah.
and you know, look what they've done to it now. You know, I won't even go over there anymore.
Mm-mm.
I won't take my grandkids to Disneyland anymore. You
Wow.
know, it's crazy.
Well, and you know, then they brought on Batista from down in Tucson. He was the assistant chief down there, and they brought him up, which really, really made a lot of people mad in the department and in Mesa as citizens because we wanted Dvorak to be the police chief, and that's, you know, they had a lot of these meetings, but the council and of course the mayor had other designs. Mayor Giles. He's such a turncoat. But they brought Batista in, and of course he just wreaked havoc on the Mesa Police Department. You know, I was a volunteer with the VIPs, the volunteer department, and I was going to the quarterly. Um, During the day, they would give out, you know, the officer of the quarter, those types of little awards. And I was doing photography, you know, taking pictures of the officers with the chief and the officers with their families.
Hmm.
And I ended up, first of all, he knew I was a Trump supporter and he hated me for that. He made many comments to people in the department that got back to me. Then I went to a council meeting and complained about him. And and the next thing I know, I was getting calls from the department that he demanded everybody in the Mesa Police Department take Brandon's picture down out of their office or out of their cubicles. They weren't allowed to have pictures of my son. And they moved the fallen officer pictures from the lobby of the Mesa PD up to the fourth floor.
That is
He's so disgusting.
so. Yeah, I was trying to find a word.
So now, you
Absolutely.
know, we had to pay him to leave office, even though the
Yeah.
Mesa Police Association had what, over an 80% no confidence vote in this man. They had to
Hmm.
pay him to leave office. And now where is he? California, police chief of another little, you know, seaside town there in California. It's like all of
Mhm.
these bad players end up in California, and I really feel sorry for the communities. But
Ugh.
we've got to concentrate here in Arizona on getting the good people, the people who know the law, know what's going to make a difference, and have
Mhm.
the backbone to stand up to these crybaby armchair commentators, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, it's very simple for me. I'm doing this. I'm running for sheriff. I don't need this headache. I don't need the money. I've got a great retirement. I've got a cabin up north, horses. My dad, he's 93, he lives with us. My wife's my best friend. I do a lot of photography, traveling all over the southwestern United States. I got plenty to do. I don't need this.
Right.
But it was the people that worked there that started to call me soon after Penzone took office in 2017. Chief, we need you back here. We blah blah blah. So I'm running because I have the passion to take care of that place. It's my family. MCSO is my family. I have a passion to uphold the oath that I'm going to take to uphold the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the state laws of Arizona, and I have a passion to keep people safe. It's simple for me. It's not about the money. I don't want to use this as a stepping stone to run for the governor or a house seat or anything else. I just want to be the sheriff, turn this ship around so we get back to the basics, and that's enforcing the rule of law, stop all this frivolous crap that we're doing, and use the personnel effectively to fight crime, to fight our border here. I consider our border in Maricopa County, because we're not a border county, is I-8 down by Gila Bend, the Vico Valley, all that. That's where I focused when I became the chief deputy in 2010 and had some say over what happens in the entire office. Is I made sure we put detectives down in the desert fighting the drug cartels, bringing the drugs in, human smuggling, child sex trafficking. We focused on all those things because that's what the sheriff should do. Well, wouldn't you know it, a week after I'm gone, Penzone disbanded them. And there's been nobody out there for the last 7 years and 3 months.
Jeez.
Nobody.
Yeah.
When we were there, at least the Border Patrol started to come around and help. But once we were gone, they they had no reason to be out there anymore. And
Well, and,
so,
and they won't be out there anymore with this administration,
no,
right?
no, but no, this administration isn't going to last much longer.
Yeah.
If God is on our side, and I believe that He is, He'll turn this ship around,
Yes.
and we'll get these things fixed. Donald Trump will be our president, and maybe we can. What we really need, and this is why we need people like you. We need people just as bad, probably worse off here in Arizona in our House and Senate to make sure we maintain the majority. Because I don't know if most people know, we only have a majority of one in the House and one in the Senate.
Yep.
That's scary because we have this California type governor here that we could be California in months if people don't wake up and bring people like you into office.
Well, and she's the veto queen. And, you've got legislators who, Republican legislators who obviously look out for the safety of our law enforcement officers. We're all
Mhm.
about that, and one of those components of keeping our law enforcement safe is closing our borders to keep terrorists and illegal criminals out of our country. So, yeah, when you've got a governor who's going to veto everything, it's been kind of a spinning their wheels kind of a situation down at the Capitol. And you've got a lot of Democrats who are running for office that are strictly activists, like
Mhm.
Lorraine Austin, who's in LD9 here in Mesa, who I'm running against, one of them. She's an LGBTQ activist, and that's what she is laser focused on LGBTQ issues, and that really doesn't represent West Mesa. Maybe 2% of the voters in West Mesa are who she represents with that kind of rhetoric. And we need somebody in the House, we need somebody in the sheriff's office who understands the laws and protecting citizens. And, especially in the sheriff's office, because the people need to understand, the voters, that this is a very important position, that they're given the authority to vote this person into office. The sheriffs are the last line of defense, right?
Sheriff is the last line of defense across the country. There are a couple of states that have gone away from electing a sheriff to appointing them, and that's a huge mistake, because when the sheriff's an elected official, the sheriff reports only to the people. The sheriff doesn't report to the board of supervisors. Yes, I understand. We have to work together. They supply the budget, but the sheriff is not subservient to anyone except the people.
Right.
And that's all people. I used the motto for a long time, a sheriff for all people. And I don't think people understood that. There's 4.6 million people in Maricopa County, and I'll be the sheriff for every one of those people, whether they voted for me or not. And that's important to know, that you're going to have a sheriff that's going to work for you, that's going to protect your civil rights, your First Amendment rights, your Second Amendment rights. Yeah. And one of the things that I'm going to do with this is very simple. I'm going to bring somebody in that is a constitutional expert in law enforcement, and how I'm going to teach our deputies and our detention officers in the jail, because 75% of the sheriff's office is that jail system. And I was the chief over that for 12 years. And it's a very difficult job every day, because 80% of those people in custody haven't been sentenced to a crime yet. So they're presumed innocent, right? That's the basic foundation of our judicial system, until they're proven guilty. And so they have constitutional rights. So that constitutional issue permeates through the entire sheriff's office, no matter whether you're civilian, detention officer, or deputy sheriff. And I'm going to make sure my people know, your people know, our people know, because they work for us, right? I work for them, they work for you. That's the way I look at things. And I want them to know what their constitutional authority is when they walk up to somebody, and I want them to know what that person's constitutional rights are when they walk up to somebody. And they don't teach you that in the police academy. I think you get like a 2 or 4 hour block on constitutional law, and it's nothing like what I'm envisioning. So I'm very proud to say that Sheriff Mack, do you know Sheriff Mack?
Yeah.
He's endorsed me.
Nice.
And probably a very humbling endorsement that he gave me. It was just really nice what he said about me. So with people like that on the team, we're going to get things squared away. We're going to make sure the sheriff's office is a constitutional organization protecting people's rights, and always doing the right thing, no matter whether it hurts or not. And that's where a leader comes in.
Absolutely. So I got just another minute here on the podcast, but tell people, Jerry, where they can go to your website, because people, Jerry's going to need donations. Money is needed in any campaign. So tell them where to go to donate to your campaign, Jerry.
Okay. One other thing too, that in a big county like this, we need a lot of money to be successful. The Democrats, they fund their candidates.
Yeah.
So come on, you Republicans, fund the candidates that you believed in, whether it's me or Mary Ann or somebody else or all of us. You need to send the money directly to their campaign so Amen. They can use it the way they need it, not to the state or the county. Okay. So that's number one. Number two is the other way you can help is do a meet and greet at your house, in your neighborhood. Because when we go out and speak, to Republican clubs, and it's usually a lot of the same people that are involved in all these different. So it's like you're fishing from the same pond all the time, right. And so if you have a place that you can put 5 people, 10 people in your living room to meet us, I'll be there, because that's how you get this done. And it doesn't cost anything. And if you want to do a fundraiser, believe me, I'm always open for that too. But how you get a hold of me is very simple. I have a website, Sheridan #4 Sheriff 2024.com, and on there you can sign up to do volunteer work, to have signs in your yard, for a yard sign if you want. We'll have somebody bring a yard sign out. You can sign up to knock on doors for us, help raise money any way that you want. But please do something about it. I'm doing something about it. I'm coming out of retirement. Marianne's doing something about it, because it's about the people, and we all need to do something.
Well, and if you've wondered, if you're in this mindset right now that we need a change here in Arizona, we need a change in our country, then do something. Like Jerry said, step up and
Right.
make a call, or have a meet and greet. If you're not in my district, or you're not in Maricopa County, anywhere you are in this country, do that for the candidates that you support.
Mhm.
Because
Yes, absolutely.
Face to face is where it's all at, is meeting
Yes.
face to face with the constituents, with the voters, with the people who we would be representing, right? Any elected official. Those are the people that you need to talk to. So this is the time for every one of you watching this to make a difference. Do something to make a difference. Do something for a candidate that pulls at your heart, that you know is going to make a difference. And Jerry Sheridan should be one of them if you're in Maricopa County. So people, step up, get to his website, host a meet and greet, and definitely donate to his campaign.
Well, thank you, Marianne. I was honored when you called me the other day and asked me if I wanted to come on with you, because I think about you all the time. I think about Brandon, and what you must be going through, and, every day. And, it was somebody that shouldn't have even been in this country.
Right.
And yeah, so let's do something about it, all of us together. And that's where the power of this company, the power of this company, the power of this country is in the people. I mean, the founding fathers set out the Constitution to put the most of the authority, if not most of the authority, I was going to say if not all, but now there's a couple of things that the federal government's supposed to do, to the states, to the people, back down to the people. They set the legislature up for 2-year terms because they didn't want professional politicians. Well, look what's happened since then. But, that's the way it was. The people would spend 2 years and help the country and go back to their farm fields and their jobs.
Right. Well, and for the people who are disillusioned and say, I'm so sick of politics, this is the time. You're going to be even more sick of politics if you don't step up and vote this year. It's going to get 10 times worse. And this is the time. This vote could change the course of this country, the course of the state of Arizona, the course of Maricopa County. And this is when you're needed most. So if you're a registered voter, you better get out and vote. You better not miss the primary. You better not miss the general. And if you are not registered to vote, then get your little fanny down to wherever you need to get. Give me a call, private message me. I will find a way to get somebody to your house and get you registered to vote, because people like Jerry and I need your votes. Mm-hmm. And the good candidates all across this country need your vote. Research, find out who these candidates are. And I hope that this hour that we spent with Jerry has given you a good idea of the type of man that he is and the oath that he's going to uphold when he becomes sheriff of Maricopa County.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. I love you. And we'll see you soon.
Okay. Thanks.
Bye-bye.